Welcome to another episode of the Jimmy Rex Show. I'm here today with John Buck. I've known John since I was about 5 or 6 years old, I bet. I used to go to the baseball field. We both grew up in Taylorsville, and it was like he played with my older brother, so he was kind of like one of those heroes you look up to as a little kid. And then he ended up living my dream job. So growing up, ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, and dude, you lived the dream.
Currently still living the dream.
Currently still living the dream, I know.
Because of the dream, yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your journey. I know when you were 18, you got drafted by the Houston Astros, and kind of dig into that a little bit. Like growing up in Utah, you lived here, and then moving on your own. What was that like after you got drafted? And kind of tell us a little bit about that experience.
I think some of the stuff that I had in my life going on helped that transition be a little better than I guess normal kids. You could say that were sheltered, or mommy and daddy still had, feeding them with the binky. I didn't necessarily have that type of. And
tell us about what was your upbringing.
It was had a mom that was struggled with alcohol. Growing up in Utah, we weren't the Leave It to Beaver, sit down, dinner table. We weren't that type of family. It was pinch for yourself, and if you want something, go get it.
Right.
My daddy wasn't going to hold my hand along the way, which I think sometimes guiltily I do that to my own kids. But when I wanted something, my dad, go do it. Go do it then. I'm not going to hold your hand. So when I transitioned into go living on my own, parents have already been through the divorce and some stuff like that. Those real life things that really affect you. And then being out, and then, which my little brother committed suicide. Yeah. Those things are real life events that they make you grow up quick, Oh
yeah. And now with your brother, I know, was that when you were still in high school? That was right after, I think.
No, that was after high school. He was
because I played football with your brother.
Yeah.
And he was a good friend of mine,
yeah.
Paul was. And so what was that like? I mean, that experience?
It sucked bad, but it was because you think about things that you could have done or should have done, or you see things that he went down that I chose to go down another path, and I could see why it benefited me. But I still think there's some things that had trauma, because we all know how Paul used to hit people. Right? Yeah. He wasn't how they tackle now.
Well, I'll tell you a story. I played football with Paul, and all the kids I ever played against, Paul was the one guy I just did not want to go up against. I mean, when he hit you, you felt it for a week as a kid. Like, I'm not joking. I hurt my ribs one time, and I had to sit out a week because your brother hit me so freaking hard. He was so good, and he just hit so hard. But so maybe some CTE and some of that.
I think so. I think so. Just kind of the way the events happened, his girlfriend and parents and him, it wasn't normal. And it wasn't Paul-like. Even though it was Paul-like, some of the stuff just didn't add up. So, events like that, when you get thrown out into the real world of what you're really doing, and you have something that to the soul affects you, and I can turn that into a positive. It helped the challenges that I went through minor leagues and all that. It helped.
How did you turn those negative events in your life into positives?
I think it was, I could either whine and bitch about it, or pull my big boy panties up and say, all right, let's. How do I make the most? How would Paul want me to live out my life from his experience? What can I learn from that? And since I had just kind of moved out, and that event happened, it was like, all right, I'm balling out every ounce of my being to be an athlete, because that's what Paul did. So I gotta finish it for 2. You don't make me cry here.
No, I'm sorry, man.
But it's that deep rooted. And now I think it's even to the stuff that I'm interested in now. It still hasn't changed. My why factor has not changed.
Tell us a little bit about your why, because I think that's such an important thing. People without a why never really have the motivation to put that plan into action. Obviously your why's changed, but you talk about with your brother, and specifically now, what is the big why? And when you were building up through the minor leagues and that, what was your why throughout that process?
Well, I guess the deep rooted one is I just want to be the best I can be. And if I'm selling myself, whether it's on a workout, whether it's the way I treat people, whether it's I want to do the best. Like, that's the why if you're gonna do it.
Anything worth doing is worth doing right.
And, you know, and everybody knows I don't ever do anything halfway.
Yeah.
It's usually over the top. And so
that's why I like you.
Yeah, so that's why some people hate me, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Beat it. Get out of my way. But I think the why factor was like I just wanted to be sincere with whatever I did.
So with this process, you're in the minor leagues. You just start out. You were in the minors for what, 5 or 6 years? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Before you
yeah.
got into the majors?
I think that's it. Well, no, I'm dyslexic, so I don't count. That didn't count. I don't know how many days it was, how many years, but that sounds about right. There's one stop at every level.
Yeah,
and then I kind of repeated AAA, short season. I was supposed to get called up. I went to an All-Star game. They kind of told me beforehand, had actually released Raul Chavez.
Okay.
Released him. Or no, sorry, I stand corrected. Released Greg Zahn, because Brad Us was there, and I was supposed to go. The day before we leave the All-Star, I ran into, you remember Lance Necro, Phil Necro's son, his first baseman, big boy. Ran into him, broke my navicular. And so I was out. I went to the All-Star game, went in the cast, the camo cast, of course. Sat there, missed the home run, all this stuff went. I was just like, this blows. Like, had to watch all this stuff, not be a part of it. And on top of that, I was supposed to be called up. They were going to let me know I was going to go up.
This was the AAA All-Star.
Yeah, this is AAA. This is in 02, I think.
Okay.
02.
Okay.
And then maybe 03. So 02, 03, something like that. And then, Zahn was gone, so Raul Chavez, that's when he went up. Because I was hurt. I was supposed to kind of go learn from Osmus, which I never got to be on the same team with Osmus, but being around spring training, being around him, the way his demeanor, the way he moved, like.
Is that what makes him a great coach now?
Oh yeah, he's smart. He's a manager of people, personalities. He has a good feel. The way he communicates with people. It didn't matter if it was a Latin guy. It didn't matter if it was a really smart, intelligent guy. It didn't matter if it was simple, stupid type guy. Like, he connected with all of them in a way that got the most out of him, and it was something I was like, whoa, that's why that guy's good. And so I love being around him.
So you love to soak that up and kind of really try to...
Yeah. And I'd see I didn't get that. I didn't get to do that with Major League. That's what I missed out on.
Yeah.
But I got enough of that spring, but the next year, I went to winter ball, and then had this little hydroculator thing, got in right at the end of the season. Then they sent me to Dominican Republic, which I was teammates, funny enough, with Jose Batista. It was both when we were. He was not the Batista we all know now.
Sure.
I mean, he had thunder. It was
bad.
It was just, it wasn't. He hadn't clicked yet. It was when he was the Pirates, kind of going back. He was Rule 5 with Kansas City.
Okay.
Right,
and then that's before the Blue Jays picked him up.
Yeah,
he became one of the top home run hitters for about a decade.
So that's when we end up really starting to get to know each other in Dominican. Carlos Pena was on there, first baseman. We got to have this awesome life experience. The next year, I mean, I learned a lot from those people.
Was it different playing with the Latin players as opposed to the American players? And what was that experience?
Dominican Republic, that's Major League Baseball.
Okay.
That's the highest level of baseball you can get before you go to the big leagues. Guaranteed.
And what's an example of something you learned from them that you wouldn't have got from staying here in the States and playing?
The speed of the game. It's just fast. And it's a fast game, and it's intermixed with really good talent, AA, triple, almost there prospects, and like Big Papi was there, and Eric Burns, and those were my teammates. Those were guys I worked out with. I remember being at the gym in Dominican. A-Rod comes in, and I'm like, whoa, where am I? Like, where is it? Julio Lugo comes in, and I'm like in baseball heaven right now. So that was learning from those type of people and that sitting over there when I was hitting real good.
Yeah.
I was catching.
Well, you were always known, originally in your career, the first part of your career, you were known very much as a specialist in defense. You were one of the best in the league. But hitting was kind of what came later. That's kind of when you popped as a player a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think that's when the All-Star games and some stuff.
Yeah, that's what the fans notice more, as opposed to
so is the wallet.
Yeah.
I had my 2 alias names. Remind me of this later. It's kind of a funny story. Alias names, I decided to have to get one. I had this one experience, luckily, with my wife there.
I think we want to hear this story if you're willing to tell it.
Well, okay, I'll just break it out. Well, so we're in Tampa Bay, and had a good game. All of a sudden, this bring. I'm like, hello? And they're like, hey, is this John Brooke? Yeah. They're like, yeah, what can I do? Well, we want to hang out? I'm like, well, who is this? Some chick, right? Yeah. And Brooke's like, who is it? And they were laying in bed watching a movie. We're still young, no kids, right? I'm like, I'm just hanging out with my wife. Oh, you're one of those guys. Yeah, well, married? Like, I'm not even, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then hang up. Brooke's like, does that happen all the time? And this is still first couple of weeks.
Yeah, your wife.
Yeah, and I was like, no, not really. Maybe I haven't had a game where I've hit 2 homers, so that definitely has not happened yet. So then I was like, all right, well, we need to come up with an alias name. And David DeJesus, he called it John Rakington.
John Rakington.
And I was
so
like,
that become your,
yeah, it did. But then I realized I needed to go to, like, once I kind of quit hitting, I realized I needed to go to John Catch and Throw. And that was a little bit more appropriate.
That's fantastic.
John Catch and Throw. So, yeah, a little roundabout story there.
I love it.
But yeah, like, having that short minor leagues and then having that experience with those caliber of people, and then when I went into AAA the next year, coming with Gary Gaetti, hitting, there were some things that clicked. I started clicking balls.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got traded for Beltran in whatever, 2000, whatever it was.
2004.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're keeping
I do my research.
Well,
I was following your career the whole time, and it was so fun because I literally knew you when you were 8 years old. I remember you more as a football player. Actually, people probably don't know, but you were as good at football as you were at baseball in high school. I mean, you kind of had multiple sports you excelled.
I thought that's in my head because that's what my uncle is. My Uncle David.
Yeah,
played at Nebraska. That's what I thought I was.
Was a football player.
Yeah, and I was getting letters for football, way more consistent than baseball. But I still, in this growing up, one of the things I'm into is like mental imagery and stuff. Just what my mom gave me, and then my uncles when he'd come home from Nebraska. Here, do this. He'd give me this book of tape thing of what they're doing in Nebraska.
Wow, okay.
So I'm like, well, I'm ahead of the game. I'm 9 years old getting this. Give me this. But that was always naturally, that image in my head of making it was always baseball. But
when did it click for you? When did you realize I'm going to be a baseball player?
That's really backwards. It's over with now, right? I'm retired. So in my head as growing up, it was literally, I thought, I'm Bo Jackson, I'm going to do both. And then it clicked in my head that I wasn't going to do both my junior year.
Okay.
Going into my senior year, I was like, all right, maybe it was my senior year. I remember it was at Alta, so I guess it was my senior year.
Okay.
Senior year, when I was on the field, we got beat by Alta State, like in the playoffs. I was like, that was my last. I knew that was my last football game. Because I was supposed to be getting drafted and all that noise started, and I was like, I don't come to school. I'm gonna go get paid to play a sport. Like, why would I want to go to school? So that's really where my head was. I was going to play both. Nobody was going to tell me I wasn't. And it just wasn't any of my business yet that I wasn't, until it had to be my business.
I got you. So in order to play both, I mean, you would have had to have gone to college first.
Oh, yeah.
Did you consider going to college as opposed when you got drafted? Because you got drafted in the 7th round. That's, they're investing in you in the 7th round. How close were you to going to college?
I think Van Horn, was at the time at Nebraska. I really wanted to go to Nebraska because my uncle, they shared interest, and also shared interest in 2 sports.
Yeah, and they were top at football and very good at baseball.
Yeah. So I was like, that's a hell of a deal. Let's go there. And so I had started, especially when Nebraska started calling me for baseball, and I was like, this is going to happen. Then I had some trouble with ACTs. I was very stubborn. I had dyslexia, so I didn't want to take it different. I wanted to take it like a normal human. I had this ego thing on my shoulder, right? And I worked hard. I did all these reading drills up at the U with different sheets of paper. You get like a purple, and it's supposed to help with your brain. So I did a lot of that stuff. and we started getting good. School was hard.
Yeah, you struggled a lot. You told me that story of how you had dyslexia, and you had to go to a resource, but you knew you weren't like a dumb kid. And tell them
well, I think
a little bit about that, because you learned a different way than most people.
Yeah, well, I think what it is, I think I was never. I feel like people that are in a resource or have some sort of learning disability, the word disability, like it just sounds negative. Like,
yeah, sure.
So I think it gets perceived that I did when I was younger. Like, oh, I'm not smart like these other kids, right? But I started to think that, and that's a story I'll show you. I remember in classes I would routinely do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10. Go to the paragraph. 10. I'd read number 10 over and over and over, like 10 times. Wouldn't listen to what they're saying. Get to it. She'd like, all right, John. I would start reading that, and boy, if she had like the smart girl read too,
yeah,
I'd screwed, because I remembered 10, right? But I would be able to remember that and recall it to where I had to practice enough that I could remember and call it, just like a game plan or whatever. Like I trained my brain. So a dumb person brain couldn't do that, and I could think I was confident enough, and also having a dad who was a PA and an uncle who was in sports, feeding me confidence of who I am and who that's a positive. I viewed it more like that, where people I was around in resource classes they took it as a negative. They would be very shy and reading, and I would stand up. I don't know how to read or spell. I don't know how to do it. Don't think, like, if somebody in the class would laugh, that's the person I'm finding in kickball game in about 20 minutes. We're going out to recess. I'll lay you out. We'll get even somehow.
You knew how to. Well, that's a pretty cool story, though, because I think you do a lot of things with youth now. I think that you've told me that's a lot of what your purpose for doing that is you knew as a kid you had a lot of help. You had people in your life that were there to give you that confidence. I think it's part of what you try to portray now as an adult. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know you did some stuff with the Bees last year. You do a lot of things with youth and baseball. You helped coach my nephew, in fact, just last week. Tell us a little bit about, was that part of like why you got into that, or what's taking you down that road?
Yeah, I think that is why I've kind of gone down that. One, because my kids are there, and I think sport is much attention that's getting, one, financially from people, the attention and emphasis the parents put into it. I think it needs to be a tool to educate and empower our youth. I think sometimes people get all whacked out and go all psycho in the wrong direction. Like, I'm psycho about baseball.
Sure.
But it's not about the $8 trophy I'm psycho about. It's about the process. I think it's lost.
What do you love about the process? Like, how do you want to portray that? When you say it's lost, what is it that you...
I think the what parents are teaching them, whether they know it or not, because I'm there, I'm on the field, I'm seeing whack job pacing back and forth, because his kid swung at the third ball in the road, and he literally says, "What are you doing, idiot?" Like, why are you saying this to 8 and 9-year-olds? Like, if you're like, maybe he is the next big leaguer, but what the hell are you saying that to him for? I don't know. And it happens so routinely that it kind of, people don't hear it.
And so you've done a lot you've really taken on a persona here in Utah, especially. Tell us about the Bees things. I know you put together an organization.
There's some the play ball events that Major League Baseball has. We launched one.
Well, that was the biggest one ever, was here in Utah, right?
Yeah, we had like over 500 people.
And that was
to date. You were the biggest one.
You threw that, right?
Me and Ken Krasner,
who
is Major League Baseball executive, a Sandy resident of Utah. He's on the tech side, so I think he's. Those techies, they get to live that free roaming life whenever they want. They don't have to be in New York, which I heard he might have to be moving there, but here nor there. But his child lives here, and I've been working with him. Zane Beatles, Brad Beetle is his dad, who runs the Bulldogs, and started expressing some of the stuff that I'm seeing that's going on in Utah baseball. I do not claim to be the smartest man in Utah.
No, I've seen it.
But there's something I do know about, and I've become obsessed with mental stuff for my own reasons. Dyslexia, brother with his depression, mom with her depression, those suicides. Like, what makes your brain work? And I want to know, why did these events happen? And also, what are the things that help me affect me positively? Like what you said, I had an experience with Carl Malone. which we'll bring up in a minute, that impact me why I want to do some of the stuff I want to get into.
Okay.
And I was raised around the community. Like, the community had to embrace me. Jared Maxwell's mom showed me how to clean my pants. Living at your house, your dad being my football coach.
Yeah.
Teaching me, like...
He took a lot of pride in being able to watch you grow into who you did, too. I know my dad, he's your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, he was an awesome man. Those are the people, Dave Gray, Steve Cramblett. Those guys made me the man I am. Yeah. And it's these things within the community that I got to give back. You've got to, because if I'm seeing something that's broken and that it can be fixed, if I just like, oh, my kid will get the right teaching, I feel like I'm going to be in trouble.
Well, if you can't
like
do
some
it,
afterwards,
who is going to? I mean, with your upbringing and your experience, I mean, you are a certified professional expert to help both with the mental side of the game and with just what you learn physically playing the game. I think it's invaluable here in Utah.
Thank you, and I think so too. And that's kind of my, I guess, role that I feel like I see that I need to do in the community and through baseball. And I think people lump me just in baseball, but I'm just athlete. That's why the company I have is Buck Athletic. Anything athletic, just be athletic.
Well, and you've got a lot of stuff going on. I know that you were talking about you partner with a lot of the groups that are already existing. I know I've heard some things with Harriman City. I don't know much about that.
Yeah. Well, Harriman, we all Harriman wants to be these sports. You see what they're doing with Deloy. They want to be the sports mecca.
Okay.
Of course, I perked up. I can help. So obviously, we're trying to work on some things. So hopefully they come through. Hopefully, some things that some important people got to help. I'm still only John, the baseball player. So it's, but the excitement and the energy's there, and all the right people are there. I think it's just a matter of getting there. Seeing what we can do to get what we both want.
Yeah.
My dancing room.
No, that's great.
Everybody gets the message. Okay,
good. No, that's great. Well, and so I want to kind of get back to your career a bit, because I think people are fascinated with a baseball player and a career as a baseball player. If you don't mind, I know you probably don't love talking about that part of your life all the time, just because it's what everyone wants to talk about.
I guess it's there.
But I get it. Like, that's what everyone wants to talk about. But give us a couple examples of, like, when you were in the major leagues, where you just what that was like, that blessing, and then also that challenge. First, let's go with the blessing of being in Major League Baseball, and after all that hard work, you make it, you arrive. What was that feeling? What was that like when you got up there and you were in the major leagues?
It was dope. It was awesome, but it was I don't know. It was numbing. I'll take it through your first at bat. Maybe that'll show some of the emotions.
Yeah, sure.
So first, David DeJesus became a real good friend of mine, like life friend.
Okay.
We talked about I'm having this struggles with the kids. Me and Brooke are fighting about it.
He was your guy.
Yeah, because we were there. We literally came up together. So we were in when I got traded for Beltran. Center field's open. David DeJesus went up. Mm-hmm. He was in Omaha, or no, we were in. He was playing for Omaha. They were playing us in AAA, and I was in New Orleans. So from that, we're in a rain delay. It's going on the TV, and they're like, "Buck, you're gonna get called up." And I was like, "Oh yeah," just kind of trying to play cool. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I'm traded for. And they're like, "Yeah, number one prospect." Rumored too, and then all of a sudden, coach manager "Buck, we need to talk to you." And it was Hammer. We call him Hammer. "Hey, Bull, need you in the office." I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And everybody's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, we'll see. Don't jinx it. Yeah. Let me get to the office." So we get called up. David and I go, and so I go to the airport. I see Dave. "Oh, you're going?" He's like, "Yeah, we're in this, kid." He's from Jersey. Everything's kid. "Hey, kid." So we're going, kid. And I'm like, "All right, let's go." I didn't know anybody. I just kind of showed up, walked out there in my uniform, was just like, "Oh, I'm really doing this." And mental imagery part, I drove past I-70 one time. We were going to Iowa for a tournament for our Taylorsville Little League, right? Yeah. 10-year-old tournament in Des Moines or something.
Yeah, I played in the same tournament.
Yeah. So we're going right past the stadium. I was like, "Dad, I'm going to play there someday." He goes, "Prove it." I was like, "What?" Okay, do it. Like, prove it. Like, what are you going to do today to do it? Like, prove it. I'm like, all right, old man. But that, I think that's one of the, when I say those things that the experience I have, I think that's why I had that in my head, that reoccurring playing in that. That's when I was 10. Like, that's when
That's
I
great.
played
So
that over and over.
I mean, you had that mental imagery decades before, a decade before it happened.
And it was funny because I remembered, like, imagery in my head looking down at a white uniform in Royals. That's how much detail in this.
Wow.
And I remember walking out with David out down the line in that white uniform, almost having that experience in the first at-bat, being right there in Kaufman.
That's amazing.
Of all those mental imagery, just natural. I'm naively doing it. Now I know.
Did it click at the time that you were there that I literally witnessed this moment when I was 10 years old?
No, not at the moment.
Yeah.
Now that I kind of realize what's going on neurologically and stuff. I'm a little more educated and spent time into learning this with our team psychiatrist or whatnot. You know, team mental coaches and stuff that I've worked with. I kind of pieced it together and have these experiences. Well, I was naively doing that. I'm glad, and I think that's some of the stuff my uncle would feed me.
Sure, it sounds like it. Yeah.
I just didn't quite understand what it was actually doing.
Yeah.
So I had that moment, and then having that at bat, being able to be there, and as I think it was Wainwright, just that first one, right?
Yeah.
And then I think I even got the jersey and the bat down the hallway, and then seeing it, which. Mind you, my dream was always a white jersey. I was wearing a blue one.
Okay.
Yeah, so smoke this ball down the line. This is the I-70 series. So we're playing against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Crush this ball down the line. Well, the first pitch, took it, and it was like, I told myself swing. Because everybody knows they kind of get a heater. They're like, all right, young rookie, let's see what you can do.
Yeah, bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, that's why you get a lot of those guys that hit those bombs. Like, we don't know this kid, let's let it here.
Yeah,
and it's just like a free, like, But I told myself let's do that, and it was like, I couldn't move. It's like, all right, check it out. We'll go. They threw another one to that, that sinker that comes from one side of the world to the other, like he does. Yeah. But I crushed it. And I hit it, and it was going down the line, and I started running and kind of weaved, and I got ready to do the turn. Lo and behold, rolling, dives from his knees, throws me out like it was like, and I was like, whoa, get back in the line.
You're rounding the base, and it never got out of the infield.
Dude, I've come down the dugout, and Tony Pena, because Tony Pena was my catching instructor with Houston. I think that's kind of why Allard Baird and he had good things to say, because he raised me.
Okay.
All my catching training through the minor leagues was through Tony Pena.
Wow. That's
what he was like, he was my mentor. He used to call me Cowtail.
Okay, why is that?
Because Cowtail is the most important piece of a cow's body. You know why?
No, why is that?
It's just like a catcher. All the shit, you gotta wipe it. Because if that hole plugs up and it doesn't wipe, backs up, cow dies. But it's the most important. Okay. So we get all the shit out. We're catchers. We get all the shit all over us.
Yeah, you are.
So he'd call me Cowtail. I come down in the stairs. He's like, Cowtail, what happened? And I was like, well, Skip, that was a double yesterday in New Orleans. I said, nobody does. No normal human does that, and then throws it all like a seed across. That's a double yesterday. So don't act like I'm the wrong one. And I think that's why Graffinino and Baco and those old Stairs and Sweeney liked me, because I came in and I was like, no excuse. You got an abnormal human down there stealing hits. That's not my fault.
That's awesome.
I'm supposed to ground it right there. So that was my first at-bat, my first experience. And to kind of go through all that with David, that was my first day where it hit. I'm like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I crushed that thing. It was like, I'm still right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, fast forward. You ended up playing for, I think, 7 teams. Is that correct?
I'm glad you're counting. I don't know.
6 or 7. Well, do you play for the Blue Jays, Royals, and Astros? Obviously. Pittsburgh,
Anaheim,
and the Braves, right?
Braves at the end.
Okay. Yeah. And of all those experiences, I know you had your best year with the Blue Jays. That's when you made the All-Star team. What was that like? I mean, just a little bit of, give us an example of that weekend and what that experience was, being with the best of the best.
Yeah, that was kind of a special year. I mean, that was, that's the year I think I put all this mental stuff, and my game has peaked, and had the coaches and stuff. It all clicked with the teammates. I mean, I had Vernon Wells.
Oh, yeah.
Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Batista, Lyle Overbay.
That team was loaded.
I think in our entire starting 9, the start of the season, all had 20 home runs.
Wow.
At the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I remember doing homework stuff with them, like with hitting the same way I did with my catching, my game plans.
Okay.
And then also having Cito Gaston say, all right, if you punch out 100 times, you're going to be in the All-Star game. And I remember thinking at the beginning of the year, like, because I want you to swing, big boy.
He took the leashes off a little.
I think I always tried to be a hitter, right? Because I was always like, I'm not a hitter. So I always just trying to be. Finally, he was like, swing it. And I was like, all right.
All you got to do is get
all right,
contact.
let's go. He's like, you see some of those balls you're hitting in Kansas City? I'm like, yeah. He goes, those are bombs. Let it go. And then Jose like, Buck, let it go. And Aaron Hill like, why are you swinging hard? So it was like, all right. So I just started getting gangster. I was hitting like 150 at the time. This early in the season. Yeah. And Cito like, let's start doing this. Start setting on pitches. I think you're good enough. And it just started clicking.
Just wait for the pitch
group
to
of those
come.
people to start clicking, and then I found myself in an All-Star game hitting doubles. And everybody tried to get like that little bleeder.
Yeah,
Poppy should go and say.
Yeah.
They needed to try to get me on that. What do you see? I'm like, see it right. Like, you think I'm gonna bite on that? Get the heck out of here. I'm not. Like, that was a hard play.
Yeah, that's great.
Get the hell out of here.
Well, it's kind of cool how the experience came together. You had so many people around you. I think there's a life lesson in there. Like, you surrounded yourself. I mean, you naturally were surrounded by the best in the world at hitting a baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And that all came together. They gave you permission to, hey, just let this thing go and really enjoy yourself.
Well, I think, too, is they said they saw how my brain works. Let's put it in ways that instead of thinking this, let's put it in ways where you can be free and single-minded with one purpose, hitting.
I love it.
Coming in the mental thing again, right?
Yeah.
And Cito said, all right, there's people are tipping. Put the work in. Put your work in. Like everybody, when we were in Toronto, remember that phase when everybody thought there was somebody out in the stands?
Yeah, actually.
When we went
with binoculars.
and everybody's like throwing at Jose and Vernon and myself. They're like, they're picking up signs from the outfield, the cameras. Everybody's looking out there during the game. They didn't realize that we did all that work before the game. And Lyle Overbay, he'd like all of a sudden at off speed, he'd just kind of go. Everybody's looking out there, and we're doing it from like right here, or because we were watching him.
Yeah,
They were like, it's like a poker player. Every time like it made like, all right, every time someone does that, they might be trying to break one off. We had done that homework before, so it was something like, so I started obsessing about that stuff. So when I went into the game, I didn't have all that in my head. Now it was just one like. Just try to go deep.
Well, it's great when you can really, like, once you are prepared like that too, it'll, you're not thinking of all the other things. You're just focused on seeing the ball, hitting the ball, swinging as hard as I can.
Correct. And I think it definitely made it so that I did that already naturally catching. Mm-hmm. I didn't really do that same process hitting mentally
until that time.
Yeah, and it helped me. Calling a game too because it made sense right away, and then also it upped my game calling too as well.
So after your career's over, I think you ended in 2014, right? Mm-hmm. 3-4 years ago. Was there a tough transition? I mean, you have 3 children, twins, and another one, and you have your wife and all the stuff going on there. But was there a tough transition, no longer playing baseball, and how have you been able to adjust to that? I mean, you do a lot of business stuff I know now, and so what's that adjustment been like?
At first it came home, and I think it was like a honeymoon period because Brooke started going and doing some stuff that we had never done. But I felt like, I retired young.
Sure.
There's some reasons why I retired. One, my kids, myself, what I really wanted to do in life, also what was going on when I was playing. I can't sit still. So to be a backup, to sit still and only play once a week was not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I have to be going. So when I came home and did not have something as important, I guess, as a game, high stress game, it was an adjustment. So I found myself wanting to do something business or make something, and that never, because it seems like a lot of business stuff has to do with hustle.
Yeah, for sure.
And with Buck Athletics, it was like a good start. So something I came up with, something to educate myself with, and it's my name. I can move it as slow as I want.
I love it.
It's like that reading program. If I need to start out with the for the next 3 years, I'll hang out there if I need to. So it's been fun because it has that component of competitiveness in it.
Yeah.
But I'm also starting to see a lot of the things that made me successful behind the plate and on the ball field. They played pretty well in
business. Well, I think the correlation for me, because I mean, I never played past high school ball, but I was so competitive when I did play. And in the business world, I think there's a couple main correlations, and one of those is that singular focus of like, when you're playing baseball exactly what you have to do to get better. And in business, if you really want your business to grow, it takes that focus on exactly what you're trying to do. And there's so many correlations. Athletes make the best business people, in my opinion, a lot of times, because they are just so used to grinding and putting in that real tough effort that you need, where a normal person might not have ever had that struggle of like really trying to push themselves, right? Yeah. There's very few things as a kid, minus sports, where you're pushing, and athletics, I guess, and that's a whole other brand of business, but like that business mentality from an athlete is just, I'm going to push this until I get great at it.
The wheels come off. And looking at, and I think this is with athletes, with sports in general, is failures aren't looked at as failures. That was like, all right, I just learned from this.
Yes.
Like baseball. Yeah. Negative game, taught by negative people, wanting positive results. Go try to be successful.
Yep.
And if you failed at least, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So baseball, business, if you take that mentality, a lot of times people work hard or they work like the rest of the fish in the sea, right, in the school. If you got one that just, and then gets hit and keeps going, you're going to notice them. He's going to go outside the box a little bit. And if people that are real successful in business, that the mentors that I'm following or talking to, they're the ones that said, yeah, I felt big. But every time I felt big, that was probably the best lesson. And they take stock in the information and learning from that failure rather than looking at it as a failure, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think sports and that's the similarity. That's that golden goose egg. Is that, like he said, they'll do whatever it takes.
Right.
They'll go until the wheels fall off. And the adjustment, I think, for me when I've come home is baseball always lends itself to like, it was like they had our set schedule. It was unnegotiable. I had to travel. I had to do things away from the family. Now business, and where baseball was kind of that, not necessarily the top of my why factor.
Sure, but it was
it's high priority because you're at the highest level, and family, unfortunately, a lot of times comes second, and that's the probably why there's so many divorces.
Sure.
Probably. Yeah. And even successful business people, because you do that if you do that. Yeah. I knew when I went into business, I wanted to be special, and what I want to do is say, all right, my little gym thing, my little thing that I want to do is, how do we show them a balance? Like, you're best if you're balanced, you perform, peak performance if you're balanced, mind, body, and soul.
Well, the businesses you're doing now are based around your family life, and so you've kind of been able to put that
why factor. You use that. So if your family is your why factor, why you're grinding,
you're going to build that.
Yeah, and if they're not happy, why are you going to do it if that's your why factor? It helps that stem, but that'll help you go harder there, but not negate this. So you're with balance. Great. And that part was me, because I came home, jumped into the business thing, and Brooke's like, feels like we're playing baseball again. And I'm like, dang it, she's right.
Yeah.
But I think being able to humble myself, and also because knowing if I keep going that hard, it'll get done.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I might have to be a little more patient to do it this way. That my teammate Brooke is now my teammate, because we're running the family together. We're managing this family together, and she's usually the boss, rightfully so, because she's pretty intelligent, especially in this arena of numbers. You're right. I think I'm good at personality, making things happen, connecting. Obviously, like a catcher or manager.
Yeah, sure.
And that teammate of her, me running it with a family, our Y factor being main focus is crucial and key.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, I know you got to get going, pick up your kids here in a minute, but you talked about a story about Karl Malone.
Oh, yeah.
I want to come back to that because I'm interested in hearing what that was. And then, if you share that story with what that was.
There was and this kind of goes into the bees thing that I've been doing and why I want to recreate this over. Because it's something, like I said, I was raised around the community, by the community, company of family and people that were inside of Taylorsville in our baseball family, if you will. And there was, junior jazz, and they have this junior jazz program. You get junior jazz, and you just sign up and get a jazz player from your high school. Right. We luckily got Carmelo. That was kind of cool, right? And so I got this, everybody's up in the stands, and Carmelo's like, hey, I need a volunteer, and pulls me out of the stands, right? I go running out there. He's like, is this baseball? Get rid of that hat. So I get it, throw it over there. And he goes, I think he said, run that hat back to your seat, whatever, right? Of course, I threw it and probably had a plan. He's like, I told you to run that over. So, I didn't, share. I just, booked over to grab it, booked back, and then looking at him, he's like, all right, walk over there. And I ran it over there, set it down, and walked back, right? Yeah. And he's kind of looking at me. He's like, you think you're a pretty good dribbler? I'm like, yeah. Right? It was just me and him. Yeah. And he's like, okay. And he said some more stuff. I don't know what they were saying with that. I was just like, I'm up here, Carmelo. And then he turns to me. He was like, all right, dribble. So I started dribbling, doing stuff, right? Going like this. And he's like, oh, pretty good. And then he leans down to me and real quiet and goes, remember, you're pretty good, but just remember there will always be somebody better than you. But you can always outwork somebody because there's always going to be someone better. So just make sure you outwork them. I'm like, all right. I was sitting there like, all right. This is just going on. Yeah. And then he turns and starts doing everything, talking to people. And I start dribbling, and all of a sudden he started picking me and just playing toying with me, right? And I'm trying my best. And he sees I'm really trying to go at it. And I think we were just having this thing, although these people, and he's doing this, but he saw I was going at it and just really paying attention to him. And then he kind of shoved me get out of here, I'm done with you. And I kind of looked back, and I remember he kind of winked at. It was like that moment, all right, he's telling me it made a difference. And maybe it wasn't. I since kind of mentioned something to him. I don't think he even remembers. Sure. I've done a couple things. I don't know. Maybe he will.
But how cool is that he was able to, because of his platform, do that? Yeah. You have the same influence on kids you don't even know.
Exactly. It's 20 minutes. I mean, I was up there for, he was there for 20, 30 minutes. Yeah. And had that experience with me to now I can return to
it's amazing.
Hopefully do a whole bunch of these for baseball around this area. So I think that's, and the fact that it was junior jazz, and now I kind of want to, I think the bees could do the same. I want to be that part for the bees, so that's where it's the root of it,
And that's why you're doing all these things now with the youth and the bees and all that. It kind of, what's what really motivated you as a child?
When you think about it, that's what I want, I want to be like that guy. Yeah. I want to do that. And he just told me, outwork everybody. Outwork them. And have my dad saying, prove it. Have these men in my life, and also a mom in my life saying, listen to these tapes. Mm. You don't like that. Listen to those tapes. These people in my life that were, saying these very things that I practice today, and I kind of use them as anchors to kind of keep me grounded. Yeah. And also, kind of shit hits the fan to bring me back to where I need to be.
Well, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, thanks again for doing this. One of the things that you've always treated me so kind, and when you're a little kid, you're super annoying, and you just want to be like the bigger kids, and you were twice as big as everyone else, so I really wanted to be like John. But I'd never forget when I was 10, I played in the same league as you guys. You were 12, and Taylorsville, 10, 11, 12 played together. Yeah. And so I remember
you were Mets, right?
I was, yeah. And that's good.
I can recall this baseball stuff. Don't ask me to spell something,
That's impressive. Bro. That's impressive. But I just remember going, and it makes such an impact that you don't even know. And so, and then following your career, we went to Detroit for a game against the Tigers one time, and they happened to be playing you guys. I think you were playing with the Royals at the time. Right. And I just called your name, and you immediately ran over. And my buddies didn't even believe that I was friends with you. And next thing they know, they're like, "Oh, all right, yeah, Jimmy's friends with that guy." But it was just
I told you, I got pulled.
It was just a moment that showed that that sincerity. And so, just appreciate you, man. And yeah, this is awesome. Your story is inspirational. So.